If you're a parent, chances are the recent headlines about the ByHeart baby formula recall have been, well, pretty alarming. It's a scary topic, and when you're trying to protect your little one, it is so easy to get lost in all the noise and fear online. So, we're here to help you cut through all of that. We're going to give you clear, straightforward information you can actually use. Everything we're about to cover comes directly from the experts, the CDC and the FDA, so you know you're getting the facts you need to keep your family safe. And you can just feel the anxiety online. I mean, you see posts like this one from Reddit, and you understand how worried parents are, and for good reason. There's so much advice being thrown around, and it's almost impossible to know who or what to believe. But what if I told you that this recall, as serious as it is actually shining a light on a much, much bigger risk? A risk that most of us have never even been warned about. That's what we're really going to dig into today. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. What exactly happened with the ByHeart formula recall that got this whole conversation started? So ByHeart, working closely with the FDA and the CDC, made the decision to voluntarily recall all of its whole nutrition infant formula. And this wasn't just a small batch, it was everything. The recall was triggered after an investigation connected the formula to a number of sick babies across the country. As of November 11th, 2025, we're talking about 15 infants across 12 different states who were hospitalized after drinking the formula. Now, the really good news here is that all of them got the treatment they needed and, thankfully, no deaths have been reported. Now, this slide shows you exactly why health officials jumped on this so quickly. Look at this. ByHeart is a pretty small brand. It only makes up about 1% of the entire U.S. formula market. But it was linked to over 40% of the botulism cases among formula-fed infants during that time. When you see a huge gap like that, you know it's a major red flag. So, while the recall is incredibly serious, the data actually reveals a much larger and often completely hidden risk to our babies. And this chart, wow, this really tells the true story. During the exact same time that those 15 ByHeart cases happened, there were 69 other cases of infant botulism. That means over 80% of the babies who got sick had zero connection to formula whatsoever. So the question is, where did all those other cases come from? This right here is the key to understanding everything. See, infant botulism isn't caused by bacteria growing in food, not usually. It's caused by swallowing these microscopic, dormant spores. You can think of them like tiny, tough little seeds. Now, in an adult's body, our digestive system is strong enough to just pass them right through. But a baby's gut is still developing, and it's not strong enough to fight them off. So those little seeds can wake up, start to grow, and then produce the dangerous nerve toxin that makes babies so sick. And here's the kicker. These spores are basically everywhere in our environment. They live in the soil in our backyards and parks. They get tracked into our houses and become part of the everyday dust. They can settle on floors, on toys, basically any surface a baby might touch right before putting their hands in their mouth. And this exposure from the environment is, by far, the most common cause of infant botulism. Okay, so because these spores are so common, your most powerful tool as a parent is knowing what to look for. And it's important to know the symptoms can show up anywhere from a few days to even a few weeks after your baby has been exposed. It often starts with signs that are really subtle. Constipation is a very common first symptom. Maybe their cry sounds a little different, weaker, or they're just not interested in eating. As the toxin starts to affect their muscles, you might notice a growing weakness, what doctors sometimes call floppiness, like they've lost control of their head. This can then move to really urgent signs like drooping eyelids, a blank look on their face, and difficulty breathing. If you see signs like those, it's a medical emergency. So, let's get back to that anxiety from the Reddit post. All these worried parents asking if they need to throw out their bottles, their clothes, even their dishwasher. That fear is completely understandable, and it comes from a common mix-up between the spores and the toxin. So let's break it down. The spores are those tough little seeds. They're incredibly hard to kill with heat. Even boiling doesn't work. But, and this is the important part, you can physically wash them off of surfaces. The toxin, on the other hand, is the actual poison that the bacteria produces once it's active inside the baby's gut. The toxin causes the illness, but what's on your bottles and your kitchen counter are the spores. Which brings us to the million-dollar question that has so many parents in a panic. Is everything that touched the formula contaminated forever? Do you have to get rid of it all? And the answer, thankfully, is no. You don't need to go nuclear on your kitchen. According to health officials, the goal isn't to kill the spores, it's just to remove them. A really thorough cleaning with hot water and soap, or running things like bottles through a dishwasher cycle, is perfectly effective at washing the spores right down the drain. The same goes for clothes and bibs. A normal cycle in the washing machine will do the job. Okay, we've covered a lot of information. So now let's turn all of it into a simple, straightforward plan you can use to protect your baby, both from the recall and from those more common risks in the environment. Let's make this crystal clear. First, if you have any ByHeart formula in your house, just stop using it and throw it away. Second, if your baby drinks some of the formula but seems perfectly fine, the advice is to just keep a close eye on them for the next month. You don't need to rush them in for testing if they don't have any symptoms. And finally, the most important part, if you suspect any symptoms at all, even mild ones, do not wait. Go to the emergency room right away. And for preventing exposure in your day-to-day life, the classic advice is still the best. Absolutely no honey for any baby under 1 year old. It's a known risk. Be sure to wash your hands and your baby's hands really well after you've been outside, especially playing in the dirt. Since the spores travel in dust, just regular cleaning of floors and toys can make a big difference. And above all else, always trust your gut. You know your baby best. And I want to leave you with this really reassuring and important piece of information. If an infant does get sick, there's a highly effective treatment called Baby Big. It's an antitoxin that works incredibly well, and when it's given early, infants make a full recovery. But its success all depends on that early diagnosis, which is why knowing those symptoms and acting fast is so incredibly critical. This ByHeart recall has been a frightening wake-up call, no question. But it's also given us a critical opportunity to learn. The real story here isn't just about one formula brand. It's about a risk that's been hiding in plain sight this whole time. So the question we're all left with is, how do we take this knowledge and make sure that every new parent knows that the biggest botulism risks might just be in their own homes and backyards?